What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck with you. Buck, happy Super Bowl week. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm good. Got a little bit different backdrop. I am in studio or getting ready to go in studio. I got 5 hours. 5 hours of TV. We're doing nothing but interviews. So it's the Radio Row car wash. Bunch of different people, hawking products. We'll talk to them about different stuff. So that's what I got on tap.
Old Spice, Nationwide, State Farm. Like, just get ready. They're all coming. They're all coming your way, man. All right, today we're going to get a chance to go back through your mock draft. I haven't had a chance to go through it yet with you, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So if you have it, I don't know if you have it pulled up.
I got it.
All right, why don't we rip through them? Let's go 1 through 10, and then I might hit you with some questions.
Okay, so at 1, we got the Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza, New York Jets taking Averill Reese, Arizona Cardinals, Spencer Fano, Tennessee Titans, Cardinal Tate, New York Giants, Francis Mauigoa, Cleveland, this is a surprise, Caleb Lemieux, offensive tackle, Utah, Washington Commanders, Washington Commanders, Jordan Tyson, New Orleans Saints, David Bailey, Kansas City Chiefs, Jeremiah Love, and the Cincinnati Bengals, Caleb Downs from Ohio State.
I want to start with Tate in Tennessee. This is a team last year. You got your quarterback. We're going to get to Tennessee a little bit later on the episode, but getting a chance to put a premier weapon. Chimere DK was great as a kick returner. Started to come on a little bit as a wideout. You've seen that team up close and personal as I have. And then I think Helm's going to be a good player. We'll see what they have there with Io Manor, the other receiver, rookie out of Stanford. But they don't have a true like number one alpha dog target. Tate would definitely give him that.
Yeah, he would give him that. Now, the thing that you don't want is you don't want too much youth and experience. But I anticipate them moving on from Calvin Ridley. They just don't have any established playmakers on the perimeter. And even though Robert Saleh comes from the defense side of the ball, I know that Brian Daboll is going to have a lot of autonomy to kind of help them put this together. I think you got to have a number one target, someone that can be a dynamic weapon on the perimeter. Yeah,
in Arizona, the interesting thing about these linemen, Fano and with Maui Noah, like they both can. Some teams view them as guards, some view them as tackles. But the nice thing is when you got a bad offensive line, like you can plug them in wherever you need to, whatever hole in the dam you need to plug, you can do that. And I think the thing that might surprise some people is that I think most teams I've talked to, and we'll see where you are. I'm curious where you are, but I think these tackles they're like my 12th, 13th, 14th overall players. They're not viewed as like top 5 guys, but the problem is to pluck one of these. For the great players never get to free agency. And even the Dan Moores of the world end up costing you a ton more than, where the talent might suggest. So teams are sitting there saying, well, I need linemen. I gotta elevate those guys up the board.
Look, man, I think it hit for me when Cole Van Lannon signed an extension with the Jaguars. They paid him $17 million annually. He entered the season as a swing player, offensive guard, right tackle. Then he's ended up playing left tackle. That's $17 million annually for a guy that prior to this season was a backup player. Well, now, if you're in need of one of those, you're either going to have to overpay significantly or you're going to have to draft one of these guys maybe before you normally would. But I think that's just what it is. And for both guys, you're talking about guys that are right tackles. Like they play right tackles. And before we used to have the distinction between right tackle and left tackle, but then people start putting their top pass rusher on that side. I mean, they're mauler brawlers, they're bullies, but they're certainly not the traditional offensive tackles that we used to talk about in yesteryear being a top 5 or top 10 pick.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there where these linemen are going to get elevated and pushed up a little bit. All right, let's go 11 to 20, Buck.
So 11, Miami Dolphins, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon.
Ooh.
Yeah. Dallas Cowboys, Sonny Styles, linebacker. LA Rams, Jamard McCoy, Tennessee. Baltimore Ravens, Ruben Bain from Miami. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Vega Ione from Penn State. New York Jets, Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver USC. Detroit Lions, Caden Proctor, left tackle Alabama. Minnesota Vikings, Mansour Delane, cornerback LSU. Carolina Panthers, Peter Woods, defensive tackle Clemson. And the Dallas Cowboys, Keldrick Falk, edge Auburn.
some interesting ones here. Dallas gets a chance to really impact their defense with those two picks, right? When you go with Styles and Falk, two guys who also have tremendous traits. Like you're talking about long, rangy, athletic guys. I think Sonny Styles a little more like juicy and like twitchy, whereas Falk's a little more smooth, kind of flowing type of a mover.
Yeah, the thing about Falk is interesting, right? So before you study him, you've heard the name for so long. People talk about him. So you go in looking at one thing, and it's very similar to me. I'm not saying he's this player, but it's kind of like what Jadeveon Clowney ended up being. Jadeveon Clowney was hailed as a pass rusher, but he ended up being a Pro Bowl caliber run stuffer who would give you explosive production as a sack artist, but rarely would he. I think he only hit double digits one time in his career. I see Falk in that vein. The traits, the physical things, greatly exceed what the production has been to this point as a pass rusher, but you can't deny his impact as a run defender at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he's so big and so long, and he's just he's firm, but he doesn't like just wow you with like get off and take off and like that raw, juicy explosiveness. But there's a little bit of a split here. But when I did him, he is my 27th player. I think I had him going in the early 20s in the mock draft that I did. But when I talk to people around that have been around him, like A+ kid, like everybody raves about him. And then you talk to other coaches in the SEC about the best players they've played against, and he's like universally one of the first names that comes out. Like they have a lot of respect for him and game planning around him and such. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like he's in the I'm trying to get through this first layer. He's in the do more work pile, like put a little star on that one. Say, hey, once we get to the end of the process, I want to circle back to him.
So DJ, it's unfortunate because so many people will look at mock drafts and take mock drafts as our firm opinion on a player. And I'm looking at my report on him, and I've changed from going to numbers to letter grades because I think it's easier to translate for the viewers and listeners. So in the notes, I gave him a B+. Right. And so B+ in my mind is, hey, outside the top 20, maybe a fringe first round pick because all the A's are first rounders. That's kind of how I see him. And I wrote down explosive, but not skilled, raw, unpolished, good motor, plays hard, has a bad stance, but it's one of those things like a developmental prospect, but not like late developmental, but like, hey, he's going to need some polishing up. But there's a lot to like about him. And so you give him that in the mock draft in the 20s. I give him a B+, knowing there's work to do. But I feel like a lot of evaluators are in that conversation with him like, man, he's so talented. Like, what do we do with him? If we wait, he's not going to be there. We got to take him, but you're not getting a finished product that should dominate from day one.
As a mover, and we'll move on, there's a lot of Keldrick Falk talk, but as a mover, he reminded me a lot of Rousseau. Body type and movement. Yeah. But Rousseau had all the production, and Falk doesn't have that production coming out. But that's kind of like the athlete or kind of, what he appears like and how he moves around. Here's an interesting one. I would take a sidebar here for a second. So I've got the ages of all these guys. So Falk is 21, and he'll be 21 on draft day. Okay. I don't even think it's just the COVID and the 6 year. I think a lot of it is these kids are getting held back in high school, which you're keen.
Oh, double holdbacks.
Yeah. So let's just say you're in the room, Buck. I don't remember many of these instances where it's like, okay, who would you take? Falk, who's 21, or Mesidor, who's going to be 25 on draft day? 4-year age difference.
I mean, we've never had to have those conversations. Those conversations are going to be more prevalent because do you grade Falk on the curve and say that, hey, he could grow into being this, and grade Mesidor on, hey, this is who he is. He's not changing because he's 25. That is a debate, and it's a reasonable debate, but that's where we're at in this process right now.
I'm going to do another sidebar. The fact that we're seeing these veteran teams, I saw an article about this the other day. The teams that are winning or the teams that are in the championship game are older, veteran-laden teams in college football right now. Indiana's proved it. Michigan, they had all those seniors. That was an older team that won a national championship. Ohio State this year had a bunch of guys who would come back. So this is where college basketball was maybe 8 years ago, Buck? Like where all of a sudden those young teams weren't winning anything anymore. It was those teams who'd all been together. Even if they hadn't been together, they just were a collection of older, more mature guys.
Now, as a Tar Heel, I would say this doesn't pain me, but let's think about Duke. Duke has always been in basketball. They've been the kings of the one and dones. They've had NBA talent or whatever. But DJ, they haven't won a title since 2015. And part of that is because the older teams are winning. You saw older Villanova teams. We're seeing older San Diego State teams go to the 4. We're seeing older teams that are hardened and tough. They may have pros, but experience really matters in that game. And we're seeing if college adopts that model, it's going to put evaluators in a weird spot because you're going to see these teams with these older players play more games and they're going to play these meaningful games. And you're going to have to, like, what do I do with this compared to the young guy who didn't have an opportunity to play on the big stage, who were projecting he might be this when I have more of a floor prospect that I'm looking at, but I've seen him more and I may be more comfortable with what he puts out.
Now, I'm sure it's the same in all sports. I'm sure Major League Baseball has dealt with this with high school kids because they've been held back at least once, if not twice. So you're drafting a 19-year-old instead of, maybe a 17-year-old, which is a big difference in the development of a player. All right, let's get to the 21 to the end here. Take us through the rest, Buck.
21, Pittsburgh Steelers, Zachariah Branch, wide receiver, Georgia. LA Chargers, Messidor, edge from Miami. Philadelphia Eagles, Avion Terrell, Clemson. Cleveland Browns, KC Concepcion, wide receiver, Texas A&M. Chicago Bears, Cade McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State. Buffalo Bills, C.J. Allen, linebacker from Georgia. San Francisco 49ers, Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle from Georgia. Texans take Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida. Rams, Ty Simpson, quarterback, Alabama. Denver Broncos, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety from Toledo. Patriots, Cassius Howell, edge from Texas A&M. And Seattle Seahawks, Denzel Boston, wide receiver, Washington.
All right, I want to get to Howell here real quick, just as a player, because I really liked him as a player. And it's been interesting because I've gotten some pushback on some friends in the league who have different opinions. I was just looking up his age. So he'll be 23. So he's not too old, but not real long. But I thought I saw a ton of twitch and production, and I saw a guy who knows how to rush. Now, the pushback I got was, well, in the Miami game, he didn't really do much in the Miami game. I think he had one pressure, didn't really do a whole lot against those two NFL offensive tackles. So I went back and okay, let me go back and rewatch that game. And I saw a lot of quick game, Buck, from Miami. I saw, they went some non-traditional formation on a player too, and then getting the ball out. So I mean, you've got a window of real pass rush opportunities. We're talking about 10 or 12 pass rush opportunities. So I'm like, I'm not going to bury him on that. And then the thought was, well, a lot of his production came against some of the lesser talent that they played throughout the year. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I just think we're looking for ways to excuse away production. Like the guy knows how to get home. He plays hard. I wish he was longer. If he was longer, he'd probably go much higher. Now I had him at 17. And as I get through the rest of these guys and finish up the process, maybe he finds his way, closer to 30 than to 15. But I just can't throw away a guy because he didn't rush well in 15 to 20 snaps against Miami.
Yeah, no, I think you have to be careful basing everything on one game. It's the body of work. And when you see the long-time production, you see how active he is on tape. Look, it's hard to dispute what he's done. And we've always said this. All right, well, if you're playing at a smaller school, a lesser program, we need to see you dominate. Okay, he did that. They talk about the production against those teams. And those games against the heavy hitters, you can't base
he played well
everything
against Texas, too. Like, I'm like, well, Texas is a chump change out there. I mean, it was like, we got a bunch of sacks against Mississippi State and some of the also-rans in the SEC. I'm like, it's the SEC. Like, I'm not going to throw that out.
Level of competition. Yeah, no, it's funny how that is because I feel like that's an argument that people pick and choose when to make that argument.
Yeah.
Depending on how much you like the player. If it's someone at the top of the board, he didn't have the production.
Well, it's the same, different position, but remember Josh Allen played terrible against Iowa and Oregon. And then who was it? We've had quarterbacks in the past where it's like, he piled up all of his production against, these bad teams. It's kind of like, okay, well, I don't know what you want me to say here.
I can only judge them based off what they did and how they played. And I mean, whoever was on the schedule was on the schedule, but we would say, well, if he's playing against an inferior opponent, he should dominate that opponent. And if he dominates the opponent, I can't downgrade him for the opponent. I have to give him his due for being able to beat a team or dominate a player he's supposed to.
Caleb was another one because I remember when Caleb came out, they're like, well, against Notre Dame, in bad weather on the road, he was terrible. And then there was another game. So they're just trying to kill him for the performance in one or two of those games. I'm like, man, I don't think you can fully get away with that. Anyways, that's a long discussion there. A little sidebar. Want to get you on another question here. The one I'm sure you heard the most about was the Rams getting their quarterback of the future in Ty Simpson.
Yeah, that's interesting. My thing with the Rams and getting the quarterback is at some point they got to get the replacement, the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. And with Ty Simpson, I think this is the perfect fit because it would give him an opportunity to redshirt, but it would also give him a chance to be a guy that can work in an offense that really would suit his skill set. And when I think about the perfect situation, this is it. The Rams have to get a quarterback at some point, and with multiple first-round picks, he's sitting there, I think, is the perfect opportunity to get someone that you don't need to put on the field right away, but you have an opportunity to develop in that redshirt year.
I think the quarterback comes in this year or next year. I think, flip a coin which one. I would just say in a draft that potentially could be, deeper at the quarterback position next year.
Oh, for sure.
They could. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and even if they trade their the higher of their first round picks this year to fall way back and get a first round pick next year. I could see them trying to get in that draft lottery there.
Oh, talking about for next year's draft lottery. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, here's my thing with Ty Simpson. I am not 100% confident that I could give a first round grade to him based on what I saw.
I didn't.
And I'm sitting here and it's funny. I'm looking like quick rhythm passer, mobile, playmaker, boots, naked, good touch timing or whatever. But the comparisons, I got like Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not.
I don't think his arm's on that level.
No, and DJ, the last half of the year was not great. It was not great.
Hurt.
Like
he's hurt. He was beat up. He was hurt. They'll say the back and the bursa sack in his elbow or his ribs. He had injuries. Because I talked to the folks at Alabama. And I said, hey, why? Yeah, explain to me why this kid's coming out because I watched the end of the season and it just didn't make any sense to me. Like, well, you watched the earlier stuff. He was healthy. He was better. That's part of it.
Yeah, he was. But then what I saw at the end of the year is also what would give me pause. I saw him get beat up a little bit, and then he's hurt. Dude. Yeah. Right, and so like that's part of the thing. And I understand the urgency that people are going to have to get a quarterback because we always talk about like quarterbacks get pushed up. But I think this is a tricky year. I'd have him with the Rams, but if everyone is peeking ahead to next year, and I know we've had this debate before, like y'all always say next year's class is whatever.
Yeah.
Well, next year's class is whatever, and I think there are going to be more people that show restraint. Knowing if I have multiple picks in next year's class, I'm going to have a better chance of being able to get a marquee player that I feel better about taking as my franchise quarterback.
So let me just explore this a little bit. I think Ty Simpson's a good player. He's in my top 50. I have him like at 40 or 42, somewhere like right around there. I think he's a second round guy. So it wouldn't be not the first or the last time we'd ever seen a second round quarterback go into the first round. So I don't have any. I'm not saying that he would not be worthy of going to where you had him going. I think that you can logically get yourself there, and the Rams don't have a quarterback of the future. But this is how I would have this discussion if we were in the room, Buck, which I think is always helpful. If we look at the quarterbacks who haven't hit or worked out lately, okay. Yeah. Let me just give you the three buckets because I just wrote this down, and tell me and then think about the quarterbacks now think about the guys teams are moving on from. I wrote down durability, lack of experience, and size.
Check. Three checks.
So like the Arizona Cardinals are moving on from Kyler Murray. You could put that into the size bucket. You could put that into the durability
bucket. Yeah.
Tua is going to be moved on from with
same
Miami.
Thing. Yeah.
Same type of thing. We've seen, Penix. We'll see what happens with him going forward, but he hasn't been available. The durability issues in college have reared their head in the NFL. You look at Trey Lance was a high pick. That was lack of experience. I mean,
DJ,
kind of go through the list.
We've gone through this. Like we've seen it. Like it's the anomaly is when someone is able to play. Look, even the concerns I expressed about Drake May coming out. He had 2 years. I think he had 25, 27 starts. He didn't have a lot of starts coming into the league. Now, he's in a perfect situation because I think Josh McDaniels has been terrific for him, given his experience as a play caller. But most of the guys that don't have a lot of experience entering the league, they struggle. I mean, that has been bust city when it comes to that. So, yeah, I think that's a valid concern. And as we're getting through it, and I know with Ty Simpson, because after Mendoza, everyone is grasping at straws. Will guys show enough restraint to be like, hey, look, we need one, but if we take him here, the debate is going to be, hey, we have to play him. And we just seen when we play these guys before they're ready, it is disastrous.
Yeah, and the other one is, we're still waiting for clarification on Chambliss. Like, what is he in this draft? Is he not in this draft? I don't know. I'm curious to see like how big he is or what he looks like physically, but I know he's fun to watch and he's got some creativity and some playmaking to him. I can see in a world where Bryce Young has started to take some steps. Bryce Young, the same concerns in terms of the lack of size. He's been surprisingly durable for someone who's not big, but that Chambliss to me would be an interesting one as a day 2 quarterback who maybe surprises and goes higher, but he's got to get in the draft. So we don't even know what's going on there with his situation.
He's a little more explosive in terms of like the plays you see him are like wild plays because of either the athleticism, the arm, and those things. But he's not going to be a bigger guy either. It's just a matter of what does he look like when we get a chance to see him up close in person. Because I know they loosely have him at like 6 foot or 6 something.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, especially after you watch Diego Pavia magically shrink. Magically shrink. Yeah.
All right. That's great. That's a great mock draft. You can find it on NFL.com. You can see Bucky's mock draft. Top 5s are coming not too long, right? What do we got?
February 11th.
Oh, there you go.
February 11th. Yeah, I'm on it.
Another week, and we'll have those out there. So look forward to that as well. All right, Buck, this is a quick one. Before we get out of here, I wanted to just hit you with this quick question. And I've done a little bit of the homework for you. So if we're going to look at the Patriots as a team in the Super Bowl who was picking in the top 5 last year, somehow they got from the picking in the top 5 to playing for a championship within a year. But let's try and figure out who that next team could be. Now, I'm not necessarily saying this team's going to be in the Super Bowl next year, but a team that could maybe make the playoffs or make a sizable leap. And when you look at those teams that are picking up there in the top 5 of this year's draft, Vegas, the Jets, Arizona, Tennessee, and the Giants. So I went with the formula of young quarterback on a rookie deal, which the Patriots had, hiring a new head coach, knocking that out of the park. And then they crushed free agency with a lot of resources that they had, and they had an awesome draft. They had a lot of capital in the draft as well. So when I put all that formula together, the 2 teams that made the most sense to have the conversation about were the Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward and the New York Giants with Jackson Dart. You get Saleh going to Tennessee. You get John Harbaugh going to the Giants. Now, Tennessee has the most cap room right now, $93.5 million. With the numbers I saw, the Giants are only at 1.8. But when I did some homework on that, they could get over $50 million of relief by some easy cuts and redoing a couple deals. So they'll have enough money as well.
Yeah, I'll be bullish on the New York Giants. And there are a few reasons why I'll be bullish on it. The formula that you outlined, young quarterback, new head coach, they have some pieces in place where I feel like they underachieved in a major way last year. Quarterback, I like Jackson Dart. I think it's without question that he gave them some juice when he came in. You want to make sure that Matt Nagy finds a way to build an offense that allows him to utilize his legs while he continues to grow as a passer. Cam Scatterbo comes back. Malik Neighbors comes back. You continue to work on the offensive line and maybe add another playmaker on the perimeter. You're good. Defensively, DJ, there's no reason why this defense shouldn't be dominant. I mean, let's be honest. Dexter Lawrence, Burns, Carter. I mean, you have so many guys on the front line that you can be able to get it without even being great in the back end. Well, now, to me, this is where John Harbaugh, who has had to hear all the noise on his departure about how he may have softened up at the end of his tenure in Baltimore and the cultural things. I think you're going to get a guy who, for a lack of a better expression, is going to be an ass cracker coming back. He's going to toe the line. And whenever the Giants have been great, it's because they've had a forceful and demanding coach that got all of it out of them. And I think he's that. And so whatever pieces they add around what they have, I think they're going to be better because the head coach is a better head coach, and they're going to find a way to improve the quarterback. And if they get the pieces on defense to play to their potential, that in itself puts them in the conversation for being a bounce back story.
Yeah, and I think you look at the Giants, and I would say, well, yeah, they're in just the divisions is just so tough, because of the Cowboys and the Eagles. But the Eagles and Cowboys both kind of took a little step back from where they were, and then Washington took a big step back from where they were. And there's a lot of turnover there in that division in terms of the coaching staff. So I think that that's a opportunity for them. Whereas in the past, we would always talk about your division, Buck, of the AFC South, of like, hey, it's all there, it's all winnable. Now you look up and you're like, well, hold on now. Jacksonville's the juggernaut. Houston's the best defense in the NFL, maybe the best we've seen in quite some time. And Indianapolis is not a layup. So it's a steep hill to climb. But I will say also the other calculus of this, Tennessee, believe it's not this year, the next year they go into a brand new stadium. Like,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of
momentum.
There's a lot of momentum building, but I think there's also a lot of pressure of like, hey, we can't go into this building with some terrible team. Like we got $93 million worth of cap space. Like, spend it wisely. Let's go get some help and try and make this at least a watchable product, which we know what that translates to, but offensive players.
Yeah, and I will say this, because you talk about using the Patriots as the model. The one thing that Mike Vrabel did is he brought in a lot of familiar faces with him to New England to not only establish the culture, but to play the style. He also brought a bunch of his coaches with him to get it done. When I look at what Robert Saleh is doing defensively, Gus Bradley comes over as the defensive coordinator. The roles are reversed because Robert Saleh was the linebacker coach when Gus Bradley was the head coach in Jacksonville, but they know the system, go back and forth, so that gives them a chance. They have enough cap room to go and get some guys that they can say, hey, these are our kind of guys, the guys that we want in this locker room, in this offensive or defensive scheme to have success. And then I'll just say this, man, that division is one that we can talk about offensive football, but it is always going to be a grimy, gritty division. Saleh understands that from his defensive background. You look at DeMeco Ryans, who worked under him when he was the defensive coordinator. He has seen how DeMeco has built the Texans. You're looking at the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are really kind of a defensive-led team in the way they play. I think he understands stylistically how to build the team to win the division. Now they just got to make sure that they plug the right pieces to allow them to have the personnel to be able to get it done.
The Raiders feels like a 2-year project. They get the quarterback this year, which was the Patriots the year before with Drake May, and then they follow that up with the next offseason, which they knocked out of the park. So I think probably a 2-year process there for the Raiders to be, to try and get themselves back into a playoff caliber ball club. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We will have one more episode coming your way. Brief, it'll be a quick one. A little Super Bowl preview, a nugget-sized Move the Sticks coming your way. Look out for that. We'll see you next time.